Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're still talking about the performance of the economy, but now we've got Senator Udoma, the Minister of Budget and Planning. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, looking through all of these programs, yes, we've seen the stats from the MBS, how the economy is moving forward. We've seen the budget, the provisions, the capital, the recurrent, the several intervention programs that the president highlighted in his speech this morning. But perhaps I should start by asking, how do you deal with comments when, in spite of those results which you see and the efforts being put in place, and you still hear a lot of people say, we down there are not feeling this?
Well, a number of things. First of all, the first thing is to get the economy right, and that is what we have done. We started with the strategic implementation plan, which was to reflate the economy, because the economy was moving into a recession. And so we succeeded. We came out with economic recovery and growth plan, which was after extensive consultation at every level. We consulted with the states, with the governors, with the commissioners of planning, we consulted with the private sector, we consulted with the National Assembly, we consulted with our development partners, and we came out with a plan which everybody has hailed as a very good plan. And that plan is working. It's gotten Nigeria out of recession. It's gotten Nigeria growing again. However, there are two or three things I'd like to say. First of all, when an economy starts to grow, it takes time for people to feel the impact. An economy that is growing at 1.9%, people will not really feel the impact. But the important thing is to see the direction of growth, which should get people to be optimistic, because our target is 7% by 2020. By the time we get to 4-5%, people really feel the impact. Secondly, there's the issue of jobs. It takes time to get jobs back. But lots of the construction activities that we're doing, we're re-engaging people. And agriculture growing is also creating jobs. The social intervention program is creating jobs. So, but over time, that job impact, people will begin to feel it. So it takes time. You recall that we were in recession last year. So you don't expect that within a few months, people will feel the impact. It takes time. But the numbers are important because the numbers show the direction of movement. So we're moving in the right direction. Things are getting better. It will take some time for people to feel the full impact. Also remember that our population is growing at about 2%. So with population growing, young people coming out of schools, not immediately getting jobs. So as a stopgap measure, that is why we have the N-Power program. Okay. Because the economy, basically, we want the private sector to create the jobs, but it's not creating the jobs fast enough. So we have a short-term measure, the N-Power program, in which we've recruited more than 200,000. We have another 300,000 that are being processed. So we should be able to, within a short while, have up to 500,000 young people.
Pardon me to butt in, but how did you determine that this implementation of the ERGP was going to generate 570,000 jobs?
No, basically, no, it's not actually, it's the focus labs. What we did, because implementation has always been the key to getting the economy right. The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan is a very good plan, but we must make sure it's properly implemented. One of the new devices we came up with, which is completely innovative in Nigeria, but it's been used before, is the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan labs. What the labs consist of is you bring private sector investors, both domestic and international. You bring all the government agencies, the ministers. Many of the ministers were there and spent time with the investors. We identified what are the bottlenecks, what are the things that are holding up your investment. And in agriculture, we looked at in transport, we looked at in power and gas, we also looked at in processing and manufacturing. What is holding it up? And then we tried to remove the various bottlenecks. And out of that exercise, we came up with the possibility that you are going to have up to $22 billion dollars worth of new investment in the next 2 years. We have investors, there are a few things that we have to sort out, so we're working on it. So we have an implementation plan, for each one of those projects. And they will create over 500,000 jobs. The idea is that when we looked at the projects, in ranking the projects, we went for the projects that are going to create more jobs than the projects that are going to create fewer jobs. So that was our focus. Yeah. So that is what we are doing.
Okay, since we're talking numbers here, I'll take you a few steps back. The Bureau of Statistics came up in 2016, their report in 2016 said about 3.6 million Nigerians lost their jobs, that's NBS, and then private sector jobs. But about 18,991 Nigerians lost their public sector jobs as the federal, state, and local government levels. But you're talking numbers here. And based on the promises made during the campaigns and all of that, these numbers lost their jobs. What's the plan to get them back into the job market or to create jobs? And what are the timelines?
Well, you know, I said we went into a recession. When you go into a recession, one of the things that happens is that people lose jobs in the private sector. Now that we're out of the recession, employers are hiring again. But it will take some time. Basically, you have to have growth. If you don't have growth, nothing else can happen. If an economy is shrinking, you cannot create jobs.
But are the employers getting any form of rebate for them to be able to how do you put it now? Is it to refinance? To refinance. Are they getting any form of rebate?
Well, basically, what we're doing is we're supporting them in so many different ways. For instance, take agriculture. There's the Anchor Borrowers program. We have a lot of intervention funds because we know interest rates are high. So in certain areas of intervention funds to try and bring down interest rates. We're also trying to make it easier for people to do business, to incorporate companies, to get land certificates and things like that. All these things we're trying to do to reduce the cost of doing business, to encourage the private sector, because the private sector is actually the engine of growth. So those are the things that we're trying to do. And as people grow, as companies expand, they will hire. As agriculture grows, for instance, we've almost increased production of rice, almost double. It's not quite double. It's about from 2.5 metric tons to about 4 metric tons.